Amireh, would you like just to take a moment just to introduce yourself and give the audience the rationale as to why we're speaking with you about AI in project management?
Thanks, Leo. Amireh from Sydney, Australia. A wife and a mom, and the CEO of PMO Solutions and PMO Intelligence Solutions. Um, I think the reason that you're talking to me is because I'm a PMO with a tech brain, if I'm not wrong. But yeah, I'm in PMO space for more than 25 years. I am the founder and the CEO of PMO Solutions and PMO Intelligence Solutions, which we call it PMOs. Working in PMO space in different size of industry, different size of organization. I am also the PMO GA APAC Hub lead, taking care of the community in Asia Pacific, and one of the contributors to a PMO practice guide as well. I always say that I don't know anything, but I know PMO very well. My vision in life is education, to make sure that what I'm learning, I'm actually educating and passing it through. I work in different industries, mainly construction, engineering, infrastructure, and energy. My background is a hardware engineer and
Mm.
also master degree in business and IT.
Fantastic. Well, I never realized you were a hardware engineer, Amira, so that's really interesting. Um, and for those that don't know, PMOGA is the PMO Global Alliance, and that's what I would say is probably the world's authority on all things PMO. It's these
Yes,
days it's part of PMI as well, but certainly pushing the boundaries at the global level around PMO. The other thing is, how do I know Amira? Amira and I have met in Saudi a couple of times at GPMF, the world's biggest project conference, I believe, and Amira was actually the chair of the organising committee as well. And so first of
thank
all,
you.
you did a fantastic job on that, Amira.
Thank you.
So thank you for that. Um,
Thank
so
you.
so obviously that gives us a good background of your vast experience around PMO, and one imagines that the world of AI is a subject that you can't get too far away from in your world these days. But from your perspective, how do you see AI impacting PMO and project management, and what sort of use cases do you think are prevalent?
Um, as you know, the thing is like AI is very always around us. Like it is not something super new. And what I can see that is very new is its reaction with the human and the way that the human can use it that makes it easier. So now we can see with generative AI, we can see that a lot of use cases that people, because it's simple to use, because it's conversational, because it understands different languages. So there are not other borders of like you need to know the tech, you need to know the language, you need to speak in a different way. That makes AI to be more popular across. And also we can see that how technology is evolving in around that. And I think the popularity is helping that as well. When we are diving into specifically the project management word and the PMO word, not really far from the other industries or any other practice, that we can see that those repeatable work and those things that has a pattern are the ones that are the first thing that AI can help and then do. Um, I've seen a lot of different use cases because we go around and like we are dealing with lots of customers. I saw a lot of fears around this, specifically for a very risk diverse and conservative society like Australia. We can see a lot of kind of hesitation in terms of bringing AI into the picture or even being proud of using it. But on the other side, we can see that the new generation are actually nailing it, and moving forward. Specific use cases in project management that I've seen is, um, the start of that, specifically when the time was for the machine learning and, data science, and then data, dive and deep learning, was around the scheduling, forecasting, risk analytic. Um, in PMO space, there are still not that so many, AI use cases, and the reason for that is PMO is kind of like a practice that is so much around people. But there are lots of potential in a PMO world, to bring the AI and help, like, get the benefits that the AI can introduce into this
Mm.
practice.
Fantastic. I mean, you've covered off quite a lot there. I mean, you started off saying about, the technology itself, how accessible it is and how rapid it
Yes,
is to create use cases, in particular in the world of Gen AI, I think, and I
yes,
certainly agree with that. And then you were talking about, where repeatability is, and where there's patterns and can AI do the heavy lifting that perhaps administrative level PMO people did once, as it were. Interesting point there about resistance and fears. I certainly wasn't aware Australian were more conservative or less conservative than any other part of the world. So I definitely think that is something that may be ubiquitous to all countries. And I think it was very interesting that you were saying that actually that is then balanced out by the next generation, the younger people who I presume are
yes.
embracing AI a lot more. If I may, sorry for summarizing there, but if I may, you finished by talking about PMO are very people orientated, and therefore maybe that's traction in PMO is slower than more repeatable pieces. Now, excuse my ignorance, but I was thinking PMOs were, certainly the lower maturity ones were very sort of, process driven, reports in, turn the handle, reports out, resource demand in, turn the handle, match the supply. For me, that sounds like AI can do a lot of that. Is that not the case or
Oh, no, no, no. I'm not saying AI cannot do it. The reason that the thing I'm saying is in terms of the cases that are existed as a practice. No, in every, this is what I believe is
yeah,
in every practice, there are lots of activities and the functions and the services that are happening that can be done by AI. So, but there are different component and different way of adopting this into that practice.
yeah,
When I'm talking about a PMO, um, it makes me thinking a lot that when AI is coming, and there are a lot of actions, a lot of practice in PMO that AI and specifically agentic AI can take care of it,
mm,
which
mm,
I am one of them that are like I'm designing it as well in
yeah,
PMOs. Um, but what I do not want to ignore is at the end of the day, the role of the human is very important. So we are
yeah.
not taking off human out of it and then just let the agent to go and then make the call. So I'm doing some research around it. And I've done a lot of like reading and talking and interviewing with the people to find out in what degree we are really seeing the human is sitting on top of this function.
Yeah,
Specifically, one of the things that I see a lot is, when we are talking about the impact of the AI into PMO, People
Yeah.
are mixing it with what AI can do in project management field. I
Yeah.
want to separate these two practice from each other because they are delivering and working on different capabilities. And when I'm
Yeah.
talking about the capabilities, I'm talking about what needs to be done, not about the expertise and the skills of
Mm,
the people.
mm,
Um, what does PMO, what actually PMO does in the business is a set of the services and set of the actions that is helping the PMO to deliver those services.
mm,
I'm talking about that core, that
mm,
how the
mm, mm,
PMO is doing its job in the
mm,
business,
mm, mm,
and
mm, mm.
it is replaceable with AI at the
Yeah.
moment. Yes, there is the there is kind of like a 30% of what we do can be replaced by AI.
Yeah, it's really interesting there. I mean, the point you're making about, I think it's commonly called the human in the loop, as it were,
Yes,
and yeah, that where that stops and starts, and also the implications of that as well. However, when you were talking, I was thinking, look, I think you just said 30% of the PMO function could be replaced by AI, maybe even more depending on what time
yeah,
horizon
maybe even more. Yeah.
you're looking over. Um, with that backdrop of risk adversity, young generation, I can imagine, how do you move this forward? Is it a question of getting, the mavericks at the sponsorship level, the leaders of PMOs to embrace? Because, one presumes that 30% or whatever the figure is comes with great efficiency as well. And it's very hard to argue against that, when we live in a
Yes.
capital society, so I'm surprised some of that doesn't sort of, ride roughshod over that resistance, as it were. What's your thoughts on that?
Um, let's say go back to the basic and say what is exactly the role of the PMO in the business?
Mm, mm, mm,
Is the role of the PMO in the business to deliver the project? No. Is the role of the PMO is to sit down and do the scheduling or do the document management? No. It's not the job of the PMO. The job of the PMO is to enable these services, enable these capabilities within the business, enable the strategy execution in the business, right? So it's layer between that strategy layer in the business and the delivery layer in the business to help the business to deliver what it needs to achieve what it wants to achieve to be
yeah,
successful. To do so, now we are thinking, okay, how PMO is leveraging and enabling this technology in the business. Is it the job of the PMO to enable and leverage AI in the business? No, it's not. But it is actually a very important part of the business to help the business to go through this change and also helping the business to adopt itself with this transition, which is kind of like I'm seeing it as a big partner with digital transfer in a digital transformation programs, which that's the job of that is adopting AI in the business, being at the seat in the board for designing the business strategic objectives with the AI strategy and approach embedded into those strategic objectives. Because what I'm seeing and I learned in Australian Institute of Directors, and it was a discussion that what is exactly the AI strategy? Do
mm,
we really have an AI strategy, or that AI component should be part of each of the strategic objectives that we are defining in the business? And
mm,
then we can see the way that the technology is moving forward, the way that the businesses are evolving. AI is a component of everything,
mm,
right? So if the PMO wants to be successful and wants to create that productivity, um, bring that efficiency, building those trust, it must educate itself of how to enable AI within
Yeah.
the domain that it is functioning. So creating that trust and helping the business and helping the people in both sides of the strategy and the delivery of not having a fear of replacing, helping them to educate, helping them bring them into the conversation, understanding that what is the data is telling them, creating that confidence and creating that curiosity. I don't
Yeah.
know accent.
Curiosity.
Um,
Yeah, we'll go with
yeah,
that. Yeah.
and then also bringing those benefit, tangible and untangible benefit, and make that strategy clear to the business when they are delivering the project is sitting
Yeah.
on top of that layer that when they are adopting AI. So I think this is a place that the human
Yeah.
is playing a huge role
Yeah.
while the AI is doing its job.
Yeah. I think it's really interesting what you're saying there about, you know, AI strategy in its own right versus individual strategies. And I can imagine in my mind, I was thinking, yeah, that's a really good point. And, there are other capabilities of an organization which are both functional and cross-functional, people, process, systems, all of
Mm.
that sort of stuff. So it's almost like that. And I totally concur that I believe the PMO has a fundamental role when it comes to the relationships between outcomes and execution to cover those boundaries as to how an organization adopts AI. In fact, I think I'd go even further, Amireh. In my view, it really would help position the PMO at a more value level than perhaps it
Exactly.
is in some organizations. So really encouraging people to do that. I must say to you though, the one thing that brought a smile to my face was you were saying, oh, about the fear of being displaced. This is on the backdrop of us just saying about 30% of jobs, being, so you have got this quandary going on between automation and resistance.
Yes.
You know, maybe that's always been the same, industrial revolution,
Exactly.
all of that sort of stuff. So,
Exactly.
yeah, I
That's
really,
exactly that's very true. Like it is
yeah,
that fear is always there. It's not
yeah,
something this is not something new. And we
yeah.
can see that. Like you are not supposed to count how old I am, but I've seen I've been in a
21, Amira, you're definitely
yeah, yeah,
21.
please. Exactly. So do not say that anywhere else. But like I've raised in an era that there were no computer as a way of
Yeah,
like having it as a desktop, right?
yeah, yeah,
And
yeah,
then getting to the point that you have a desktop at home, and then getting to the point that oh, you have internet, and it's very like my first entrepreneurial like job was
yeah,
selling um, flower photos from internet on a floppy disk to the flower
yeah,
shops, right?
yeah,
Because they
yeah.
didn't have internet. I had internet. I was downloading it and I was selling the disk to them.
Fantastic.
And so, it's always have this evolution moving forward
Yeah,
for in any cases. And then we saw mobiles, we saw Apple phone.
yeah,
All
yeah,
of these things are happening.
yeah,
And
yeah,
now we are seeing AI. And it was actually one of the subjects in GPMF this year that how we are going to fill the gap between the two generation in project management. In one side, we have the project managers that they are really digitalized. They are a generation of the digital world, and we have project managers and the project experts that they are coming from a huge amount of experience and a real touch and feel of the mud. How
yeah,
these two can create that
yeah.
benefit into the business.
I think it's a fantastic subject. I just want to go back to a second ago and really, really make this point in my perspective, which is what an opportunity for PMOs to lead the way in terms of, that particular challenge you've talked about, driving
Yes.
efficiencies, driving
Yes.
effective decision making, bridging that gap. I mean,
Yes.
AI almost, used appropriately with the right strategy could become that opportunity to finally elevate PMOs to where they should be as well.
Yes. Yeah, exactly.
Ah,
When we are saying the PMO is the arm of the business to execute the strategy, when we are when the strategic objective of the business, all of them has a AI component,
mm,
so you can see the chain, right? So the PMO is the one that is enabling those AI components and the execution of that strategy and enabling the delivery to deliver those KPIs and those objectives by defining what benefit is coming out of it, what are the outcomes, and keeping the delivery in its guardrails of making sure that they are focusing on delivering the business OKR. And then when I'm saying that, like um, you have seen that so many people are talking about it, about the value demonstration, about the impact engine from Laura, about, like, as I say, the PMO valuing from um, PMOGA, Americo. All of these things are coming from that point of, are you delivering a value?
yeah,
And if we are smart, if the PMOs are smart, I was talking about it like 2 years ago, PMOs, it is a time to learn technology.
yeah.
Just digitalize your brain in terms of the thinking, in terms of finding out how best you can use technology and enable it to make a better
Yeah.
solution and deliver a better service.
I totally agree with that. I mean, I'm fortunate. I'm part of the PMI's future of project success piece, which again is all about the elevation of the profession, as it were.
Yes.
This relationship of bringing execution and outcome closer together, which can be fueled by AI, I think is a fantastic. Just again, what an opportunity for PMOs to get there. The only place that I've seen this globally is when we're fortunate enough to go to Saudi Arabia, we know that PMOs in Saudi Arabia are the heart of the many a business, or the heart of certainly those giga projects as well. And it's the first place where, and I'm not suggesting that anybody's got this right yet, but certainly the elevation there you can see. And I think if we could take a little leaf out of that book, I think that would be fantastic. So I
Yes.
mean, for me, Amireh, that's probably the biggest takeaway of this conversation, is the opportunity for PMOs to really leverage AI to be there. I know that we flirted with the subject of the impact on people, but it's sort of rounding off the conversation. If there was sort of one thing as to either a takeaway or how people could get started on this journey, what's your thoughts on that?
Um, I see that as an opportunity, yes, absolutely. And I see that if we don't do anything, it's a huge risk as well. And that risk is not something that you can even ignore it or even you can accept it because there are a lot of ingredients around AI when you are talking about it, right? The first thing is, like, do we have a right use case? Do we have that governance framework around it? Do we have that adequate visibility on making decision to support that adoption decision for the AI within the business? Do we have the guidelines of how, what, the gaps and the regulations, rules and everything? Um, in one side, it's a huge opportunity for the PMO professionals. For using that opportunity, the PMOs need to step up. They need to upskill themselves ahead of the game. So you're now
Yeah.
talking about the future project success, right? So it is a time for PMOs to focus on the PMO profession and understand that it is a very important role for them at this era to help the business to be successful. And
Yeah.
I'm saying that
That's
the reason of that is this is not the time to say everybody can be a PMO. And it is the time for the businesses to be wise and understand that a good PMO can really shift the business much, much quicker.
Yeah. We have
And
to
can
drive that maturity upwards, don't we? You know, we can't. I mean,
exactly.
how many years? I mean, obviously, I'm 22 these days, Amira, but how many years have we been talking about PMOs can't just be a reporting function? You know, it's
Yeah,
just crazy, and that's the opportunity for me. So
yes,
I actually think we could have talked longer, but I like to try and keep these conversations to roughly half an hour. So thank you so much for your time this morning or this evening,
thank
depending
you.
where you are.
Yeah.
It's been really enjoyable, and I look forward to keeping in touch and seeing how things progress for each of us. And if nothing else, hopefully we'll see each other in Saudi again soon. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Are you coming to PM on Con?
I'm not actually. I'm
Oh,
not. In San Diego, you mean?
yes.
Yeah, yeah. I'm not. Yeah. A story for another day, Amira.
No, thank you so much, Leah, for thank you for having me. I do always enjoy conversation with you, and I do like to see the day that the PMOs are sitting in a very right position, in a very good position, helping the businesses to be successful, specifically to bring AI into the business.
Fantastic. Thank you.